Yes, sir. Are you ready? Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 2025 budget work session, and I'm going to immediately hand it to Aaron.
All right, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Let's see here. There we go. All right, we are going to have a work session on budget. I wanted to go over the mill levy, give you some calculations on how the mill levy will look for next year, so you all can make a decision on how you would like our mill levy to be set, and then also to address any additional questions that you all may have before we have the budget ordinances presented this evening. All right, so I'll just jump right into the mill levy comparisons. So on the left-hand side in the green there, we have our 2024 total assessed valuation, and then in the blue on the right-hand side, the 2025. So if you look at our 2024 taxable assessed valuation, it was 163,746,000. We had a slight increase for the 2025 year, which is actually 2024 property values. We had 165,848,000 there. So you can see we had a slight increase there. The next line there is our City of Woodland Park mill levy. Our general mill levy is set at 15.75 mills. Last year, we did do a temporary one-time 3 mill reduction. And so our total property tax revenue last year would have been 2.5 million, 2,579,000. This year, if the mill levy was left unchanged at the 15.75 mills, it would be 2,612,000. So that's just a general overview of what it would look like if we made no adjustment last year. Any questions on that piece? Okay. So I did reach out to the assessor's office because I had some questions on House Bill 1001, which I had talked to you about before, which does drop the commercial and the residential tax rates next year. So that actually, some of that bill goes into effect in 2024, but the majority goes into effect in 2025. So for the property tax that we will receive next year, it does not affect it. It will go into effect next year after they do the reassessment. So these numbers are the numbers for next year. It will not go into effect yet. When we had done the analysis, we estimated that House Bill 1001 will effectively reduce our total property tax by about 12.5%. And so when I worked up the budget, that's the assumption that I worked off of, was that that was going to go into effect. It will not. So you all will have a decision to make on how you would like to go with the mill levy here. So the next slide here, I have comparisons of how much property tax revenue the city would receive based on the amount of mill levy we would have, how much would be returned to the property owners, and how much the city revenue would be reduced, and then also the change from the prior year. So on this slide here, I'll just go right down the line. If we left it unchanged at the 15.75, that would be a 0 mill levy reduction. We would have 2,612,000 in revenue, and that would be an increase of 524,000 over last year. And then as we drop it, I have half point increments here. Each half point is 82,000 in a reduction in city revenue, and 82,000 would go back to the property tax owners, right? So for each one. When I built out the budget, I did use that assumption of 12.5% reduction, and that is almost exactly what a 2 mil reduction would be. You can see there a 2 mil reduction would be 2,280,000. If we had a 12.5 reduction in our overall, it would be 2,285,000. So it's almost right on that number. So that was the assumption I had used in the budget. That has the reduction in city revenue being $331,697, and that's what would be returned to the property owners. And that's a $192,000 increase over last year. I will say, when we looked at last year, what the other taxing districts did, the county gave back 1.8 mills and we had done 3. So this would also be right in line with what the county had done last year. And then there's the additional, if you would like to see if 2.5 mills or 3 mills is what we did last year, based on that.
What's the average return for a property owner and a business owner?
I'll get right into that in the next slide. I did want to also say really quickly, my phone would not freeze. Okay, so we currently in the budget, we do have the 2.2 million 80,000 as the revenue line. That puts us at a 19.81 fund balance. If you dropped it to 2.5, it would reduce the fund balance to 19.19, or you could reduce the capital reserve regardless which way you'd like to go there. And if you did a 3 mil, it would put us at 18.57 fund balance.
But the capital fund has already been obligated for Meadowwood Park, correct? So
It has, yes.
so there is no capital fund any longer.
Well,
It'll be spent over the next year.
that is the intention, correct. Any questions on this slide? And I'll go into the next one. Is it showing up there? Okay, and then this is what Councilmember Harvey had just asked. Based on the amount of mill levy reduction, this is the amount of property tax that would be reduced for the average homeowner. The average home value in Woodland Park is 520,000, less the $50,000 dollar rebate that we had under whatever the bill was from last year. I apologize, I forget the number. I think it was 23103, but I don't remember that exactly. So for each half mil that you reduce, it reduces the average property tax owner by $15.75. And for every 1 mil, it's $31.49. So if you did 2 mills, it would be $62.98. 3 mills would be $94.47. That's not for the commercial, this is for residential.
So help me understand on that. The amount billed, what is that number again?
This is only for the city of Woodland Park.
Mhm.
So this is
Okay.
only our mill, and this is how much it would be reduced. So if with a full 15.75 on a $520,000 home, the Woodland Park property tax bill should be $495.
So you're assuming a $520,000 value.
Yes.
Thank you.
What questions can I answer? What have I not? Anything?
So, Aaron, what your objective here is to help us determine whether or not we want to reduce it all or reduce some.
Yeah, I'd like to know where you all would like to fall on this,
Mhm.
on this listing. This is, my recommendation would be somewhere in this range.
Right.
What I built into the budget was
Was the
2
two.
mil reduction because I was assuming that House Bill 1001 was going into effect, but
Right.
it was not, yeah.
So are you looking for recommendation at
Yes,
this point? Well, because we know we're going to deplete the capital fund that we had, which was approximately $3 million for the Meadowwood Park upgrades, I would say keep it at the two mills credit. Just so we are at the cusp of 20% reserve.
I don't disagree with that.
I don't either.
I'm fine with that.
So tell me again, just so I'm clear. I was paying attention, I just didn't hear clear. House Bill 1001. What is this taking into account the effect of that, or is that on hold?
that's on hold until next year.
Okay. That helps a lot.
And if you do.
Next year's almost here.
It goes into effect January of 25
For
and yes.
following.
And so this is an arrear, so it will not take effect until the following year.
Right.
I will say though, if you do a 2 mil, if you do choose to do a 2 mil reduction, it will be almost exactly the effect of what House Bill 1001 will put into effect the following year. So there'd be very little change for the homeowners and the commercial tax rate for them.
Do we know what the county's doing, if anything at all?
I have not gotten a response back yet.
Oh, okay.
And then are we discussing just doing the credit again? Or are we actually talking about permanently reducing this?
My recommendation would be a temporary,
Okay,
since in the following year it'll go.
just
House Bill
making sure.
will Go into effect, yes.
Thank you, Catherine. I don't have any problem with the 2 mil reduction. As long as it's, we're balanced and everything is, we need is there.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so that's it for the mill levy discussion. any other questions on the budget that you'd like to go over or that we need to address before we go over the ordinances tonight?
Council, do you have any questions on the full budget document? And don't rush, we've got plenty of time.
Just again, Aaron, if you could remind me what you propose to do with economic development, where is that going to fit into the budget?
Yes, so we have the visitor center and also the Main Street contribution in the budget. The Main Street contribution is under the city manager's office for $30,000. That's on page 35. Then we have under the interdepartmental pages, which is page 50, we have the visitor center for 40,000. And then in the finance department, we have an additional allocation there from the previous year, which we're planning to use for a Main Street / grant analyst position.
So what was the 30,000 for Main Street to get them back?
That's
Up
their
and running.
budget that they would have available to them.
Okay, gotcha. And it would require a full-time coordinator, which you would consider that position in the finance department to be the full-time.
Correct.
coordinator.
Yeah, at a minimum, we have to have a 20-hour-a-week person allocated just to Main Street.
20? Okay, that was 30, but
It may be 30. It's a part-time.
As far as the Downtown Development Authority, what you have programmed for principal and interest on their debt, is that just what the minimum that's required per the debt service schedule?
Correct.
Okay, so if they decided to pay some down early and maybe start that process like the council's done before, we would have to do a supplemental for this.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And also the micro grants that they're proposing would also be a supplemental.
Okay.
So I would hope to do that at the same time. I know the treasurer and the president of the DDA right now are going through that whole process of looking at all the financials, seeing how much they want to pay off in debt early and what the restrictions are on paying it off early are. So that's what they're going through right now.
Excellent, thank you.
And the other thing that I didn't bring up at our last work session is, are we looking at any possibility of addressing renovation of this building or potential for a new building?
Right now, we are getting quotes for roof replacement or roof repairs because as you all can see upstairs, we have had some leaks. So we are looking at that right now. We did do a full design bid last year. I believe the cost was 4.8 million. I'm not gonna put Kip on the spot because I don't think he's looked at it yet, but I think it was 4.8 million just to do cosmetic repairs, facade on the outside of the building, and then make the building ADA compliant. That was not addressing any of our space needs or any of the other items that we've had. Cost on a new building is probably somewhere in the $12 million range. So I'm not sure that we're there yet to look at comprehensively what that entails.
And you did not include that in our capital. It's in the 5-year projection, but not for next year.
It's not even in the
all?
5-year.
Okay. But it's coming.
Since I was born.
Yeah.
What, any other questions? All right, well, I apologize that it's so short, but we needed to have that mill levy discussion so that we could get that settled. So that will not be until our next meeting that we'll have the resolution for the mill levy. But that will be at our December 5th meeting.
And the budget ordinance that we're going to consider tonight on first reading will be, that's what you have in the budget now.
Correct.
The 2 mill reduction.
Yes.
Excellent, thank you.
All right, well, thank you all.
Thank you. Well, that took us 15 minutes, council. Yeah. So we'll take a break now and return for the regular council meeting at 6:30.